The extensive grounding system implemented in pharmaceutical buildings is likely due to several critical reasons. Firstly, electrical safety is paramount. Grounding provides a low-resistance path for electrical currents to flow to the earth, preventing dangerous currents from flowing through equipment or personnel. In the event of a fault or surge, proper grounding diverts the current away from sensitive equipment, protecting it from damage. Secondly, electrostatic discharge control is vital. Pharmaceutical manufacturing processes often involve handling electrostatic sensitive materials and equipment. Grounding helps dissipate static charges, reducing the risk of electrostatic discharge, also known as ESD, which can damage sensitive components and potentially cause explosions. Thirdly, regulatory compliance is essential. Pharmaceutical manufacturing facilities are subject to strict regulations, including those related to electrical safety and ESD control. The extensive grounding system may comply with specific regulatory requirements or industry best practices. Fourthly, personnel safety is a top priority. Properly grounded electrical systems protect personnel from electrical shocks by providing a safe path for current to flow. The test points allow for periodic verification of grounding continuity, ensuring the effectiveness of the grounding system. Fifthly, building protection is necessary. Lightning strikes can induce high voltages into a building structure. The grounding system provides a path for these voltages to discharge safely into the earth, protecting the building from damage. Sixthly, equipment life extension is beneficial. Proper grounding reduces electromagnetic interference, also known as EMI, and noise, which can extend the life of electrical equipment and sensitive components. The grounding system's extent may seem excessive. However, it is likely driven by the critical nature of the pharmaceutical manufacturing process and the need to minimize any risks associated with electrical hazards, electrostatic discharge, and regulatory compliance. The 4/0 copper conductor that circles the whole building, along with ground rods installed every 20 feet, enhances the grounding system's effectiveness. The test points at opposite corners allow for regular verification of the grounding continuity, ensuring that the system remains functional and effective over time. The combination of these elements creates a robust and reliable grounding system, essential for maintaining safety and preventing disruptions in pharmaceutical manufacturing operations. Understanding the rationale behind such extensive grounding can provide a better appreciation for the stringent safety measures implemented in pharmaceutical facilities. Electrical grounding ensures that in the event of an electrical fault, the current has a safe, low-impedance path to return to the source. This path allows for the rapid tripping of circuit breakers or fuses, quickly disconnecting the power and preventing electrical shock or fire hazards. Without proper grounding, a fault current could flow through unintended paths, such as metal enclosures or even a person touching the equipment, resulting in serious injury or death. In pharmaceutical buildings, the presence of sensitive electronic equipment further emphasizes the need for effective grounding. These devices are susceptible to damage from voltage spikes or surges, which can be caused by lightning strikes, power grid fluctuations, or even internal electrical events. A well-designed grounding system helps to mitigate these surges by diverting the excess energy to the earth, thereby protecting the equipment from damage and ensuring its continued reliable operation. Moreover, the grounding system plays a crucial role in minimizing electromagnetic interference. Electrical equipment and wiring can generate electromagnetic fields that can interfere with the operation of other sensitive devices. A proper grounding system helps to contain and dissipate these fields, reducing the potential for interference and ensuring the accurate and reliable performance of electronic instruments and control systems. In addition to safety and equipment protection, the grounding system also contributes to the overall reliability of the electrical system. By providing a stable reference point for voltage levels, grounding helps to prevent voltage fluctuations and imbalances that can disrupt the operation of equipment and lead to premature failure. The regular testing of grounding continuity at the designated test points is a critical maintenance practice. This testing ensures that the grounding connections remain intact and that the system continues to provide a low-impedance path to ground. Any degradation in the grounding system could compromise its effectiveness and increase the risk of electrical hazards. The practice of CAD welding the ground connections to the steel columns ensures a permanent and reliable bond. CAD welding, also known as exothermic welding, creates a molecular bond between the copper conductor and the steel, providing a connection that is resistant to corrosion and mechanical stress. This type of connection is far superior to mechanical connections, such as bolted clamps, which can loosen over time and lose their effectiveness. The use of 4/0 copper wire for the grounding conductor provides a low impedance path to ground, minimizing voltage drop and ensuring rapid fault clearing. The size of the conductor is carefully selected based on the anticipated fault current levels and the length of the grounding run. Installing ground rods every 20 feet around the perimeter of the building further enhances the grounding system's effectiveness. Ground rods provide a direct connection to the earth, helping to dissipate fault currents and reduce the overall ground resistance. The spacing of the ground rods is determined by soil conditions and the desired level of grounding performance. Pharmaceutical buildings often contain specialized equipment and processes that are particularly sensitive to electrical disturbances. For example, automated manufacturing systems, analytical instruments, and data acquisition systems require stable and reliable electrical supply to function properly. Any interruption or fluctuation in the power supply can lead to process disruptions, data loss, or even equipment damage. Therefore, the grounding system plays a critical role in maintaining the integrity of these systems and ensuring the quality of the pharmaceutical products being manufactured. Furthermore, the grounding system helps to minimize the risk of electrostatic discharge, which can be a significant concern in pharmaceutical manufacturing environments. Electrostatic discharge can occur when there is a buildup of static electricity on surfaces or objects, followed by a sudden discharge when the object comes into contact with another object or a person. This discharge can damage sensitive electronic components, ignite flammable materials, or even cause discomfort to personnel. The grounding system helps to dissipate static charges by providing a path for the charges to flow to ground, thereby reducing the risk of electrostatic discharge events. In addition to the technical aspects of grounding, it is also important to consider the regulatory requirements that govern the design and installation of grounding systems in pharmaceutical buildings. These requirements are typically based on national and local electrical codes, as well as industry standards and best practices. Compliance with these regulations is essential to ensure the safety of personnel and the integrity of the electrical system. The design and installation of a grounding system should be performed by qualified electrical engineers and contractors who have experience in pharmaceutical facilities. These professionals can assess the specific needs of the building and develop a grounding system that meets all applicable requirements. Regular inspections and testing of the grounding system should also be performed to ensure that it remains effective and compliant over time. The extensive grounding system in a pharmaceutical building is not an overkill, but a necessary measure to ensure electrical safety, protect sensitive equipment, comply with regulations, and maintain the integrity of manufacturing processes. Grounding is a critical aspect of electrical safety, especially in environments where sensitive equipment and human safety are paramount. It's a fundamental principle in electrical engineering that aims to provide a safe path for electrical currents in the event of a fault or surge, protecting both people and equipment from harm. The National Electrical Code, also known as the NEC, outlines comprehensive requirements for grounding and bonding to ensure electrical systems are installed and maintained safely. The NEC Article 250 covers grounding and bonding. Grounding creates a low impedance path for fault currents to return to the source, typically the electrical panel or transformer. This low impedance path allows for rapid increase in current during a fault, which triggers the overcurrent protection devices, such as circuit breakers or fuses, to quickly disconnect the power supply. Without a proper grounding system, fault currents could flow through unintended paths, such as metal enclosures, water pipes, or even a person, leading to electric shock or fire hazards. Bonding, on the other hand, involves connecting all metal parts of an electrical system together to create an electrically continuous path. This includes metal conduits, enclosures, equipment frames, and other conductive components. Bonding ensures that all these metal parts are at the same electrical potential, minimizing the risk of electric shock if a fault occurs. The NEC specifies different grounding methods depending on the type of electrical system and the application. For example, separately derived systems, such as generators or transformers, require their own grounding electrode system. A system typically consists of ground rods, ground plates, or connections to the building's metal frame. The size of the grounding conductors is also specified in the NEC based on the size of the service entrance conductors. Proper grounding and bonding are essential for protecting sensitive electronic equipment from damage due to voltage spikes, surges, and electromagnetic interference. Electronic devices are particularly vulnerable to these disturbances, which can cause malfunctions, data loss, or even permanent damage. A well-designed grounding system helps to mitigate these disturbances by providing a path for the excess energy to dissipate to the earth. In pharmaceutical buildings, the grounding system is often more extensive than in other types of buildings due to the presence of highly sensitive equipment and the need to maintain a clean and stable electrical environment. The extensive grounding system in pharmaceutical buildings serves multiple critical purposes. It provides a low-impedance path for fault currents, protecting personnel and equipment from electrical hazards. It protects sensitive electronic equipment from damage due to voltage spikes, surges, and electromagnetic interference. It minimizes the risk of electrostatic discharge, which can be a significant concern in pharmaceutical manufacturing environments. It complies with regulatory requirements and industry best practices. It ensures the overall reliability and safety of the electrical system. The specific requirements for grounding in pharmaceutical buildings may vary depending on the local electrical codes, industry standards, and the specific processes being conducted in the building. However, the general principles of grounding and bonding remain the same. It is essential to consult with qualified electrical engineers and contractors who have experience in pharmaceutical facilities to ensure that the grounding system is properly designed, installed, and maintained. Grounding electrode conductors, also known as GEC, connect the equipment grounding system to the grounding electrode. The size of the GEC is determined by the size of the service entrance conductors as specified in NEC Table 250.66. The GEC must be made of copper, aluminum, or copper-clad aluminum. Grounding electrodes can take various forms, including ground rods, ground plates, metal underground water pipes, and the building's metal frame. The NEC specifies the requirements for each type of grounding electrode. Ground rods must be at least 8 feet long and must be driven into the ground at least 8 feet apart. Ground plates must have a surface area of at least 2 square feet and must be buried at least 30 inches below the surface of the earth. Metal underground water pipes can be used as grounding electrodes if they are in direct contact with the earth for at least 10 feet. The building's metal frame can be used as a grounding electrode if it is effectively grounded. Bonding jumpers are used to connect metal parts of the electrical system together to create an electrically continuous path. Bonding jumpers must be sized according to NEC Table 250.102. The NEC also specifies the requirements for bonding different types of equipment, such as electrical panels, motor frames, and metal raceways. Surge protective devices, also known as SPD, are used to protect sensitive electronic equipment from voltage spikes and surges. SPD are typically installed at the service entrance and at branch circuits to provide multiple layers of protection. SPD must be properly grounded to be effective. Electrostatic discharge, also known as ESD, can be a significant concern in pharmaceutical manufacturing environments. ESD can damage sensitive electronic components, ignite flammable materials, or even cause discomfort to personnel. To minimize the risk of ESD, it is important to implement ESD control measures such as grounding work surfaces, wearing ESD-safe clothing, and using ESD-safe tools. Grounding is a critical aspect of electrical safety and should not be overlooked. A properly designed and installed grounding system can protect people, equipment, and property from electrical hazards. Regular inspections and testing of the grounding system are essential to ensure that it remains effective and compliant over time. Article 500 of the National Electrical Code, or NEC, addresses hazardous locations. These are areas where fire or explosion hazards may exist due to flammable gases, vapors, dust, or fibers. Pharmaceutical manufacturing facilities often have areas classified as hazardous locations due to the presence of flammable solvents, chemicals, or powders. In hazardous locations, electrical equipment must be specially designed and installed to prevent ignition of the flammable substances. This includes using explosion-proof enclosures, intrinsically safe circuits, and other protective measures. Grounding and bonding are particularly important in hazardous locations to minimize the risk of static electricity buildup and spark generation. The NEC provides detailed requirements for grounding and bonding in hazardous locations. These requirements are more stringent than those for non-hazardous locations. It is essential to consult with qualified electrical engineers and contractors who have experience in hazardous locations to ensure that the electrical system is properly designed, installed, and maintained. The design and implementation of an effective grounding system in a pharmaceutical building involves a multifaceted approach. It begins with a thorough assessment of the facility's electrical needs, taking into account the type of equipment used, the sensitivity of the processes involved, and the regulatory requirements that must be met. The selection of appropriate grounding electrodes is crucial. Factors such as soil conditions, the availability of existing grounding structures, and the desired level of grounding performance must be considered. The installation of grounding conductors must be done carefully to ensure a low impedance path to ground. The conductors must be properly sized, routed, and connected to minimize voltage drop and prevent damage. The bonding of metal parts of the electrical system is essential to create an electrically continuous path. Bonding jumpers must be properly sized and installed to ensure that all metal parts are at the same electrical potential. The use of surge protective devices, or SPDs, can provide additional protection against voltage spikes and surges. SPD should be installed at the service entrance and at branch circuits to provide multiple layers of protection. The implementation of ESD control measures can help to minimize the risk of static electricity buildup and spark generation. These measures include grounding work surfaces, wearing ESD-safe clothing, and using ESD-safe tools. Regular inspections and testing of the grounding system are essential to ensure that it remains effective and compliant over time. Testing should be performed by qualified personnel using appropriate equipment. The results of the testing should be documented and any deficiencies should be corrected promptly.